Aldeburgh Festival takes place here at Snape Maltings on the Suffolk coast in a magnificent set of converted 19th century buildings. It was the brainchild of the English composer Benjamin Britten in the 1940s, and he ran it with the English tenor Peter Pears, his partner in art as well as in life. In 1967, the main concert hall here was created, and since then many more of the buildings have been converted to other halls, rehearsal rooms and so on. Now, under the directorship of Jonathan Reiki, the festival has an even wider international range and even more variety. This year's festival contains plenty of surprises.
Walking on the Moon.
Jonathan, there's a huge range of music that takes place here at Aldeburgh. Can you give us a flavour of that?
Now we have about 500 events a year here, of about 300 performances of different kinds, 150 of which are in this hall where we're talking now. And we have a huge amount of work involving nurturing talent, from school-age children through to the most talented 8 to 18-year-olds, through to the young professionals who are part of the Britten Pears Young Artist Programme, through to our residency programme, which is for artists in the middle of their careers who need time to experiment or refresh themselves or try new things.
One of the important innovations this year is not musical at all. It's in the field of the visual arts, a 12-artist multimedia contemporary art show taking place all over the site here at Snape.
In fact, this show, Snap, started when I had a conversation with Michael Craig Martin, who was Sarah Lucas's teacher at Goldsmiths. And he said to me, well, it almost feels like there's some kind of movement emerging here. Through a wonderful coincidence, one of this country's great contemporary artists at the moment, Sarah Lucas, a few years ago bought Benjamin Britten's house further inland. He had a house where he composed a few miles inland from here, which was really his bolt hole from the sort of busy life of Aldeburgh. And so Sarah coming to Suffolk, and with that move, various other people, other artists of her generation being drawn here as well. Other artists that she works with actually originally came from Suffolk, people like Don Brown. Now I don't know whether there's a movement or not, but maybe, in fact maybe Snap can establish a movement, I don't know.
I'm with Abigail Lane, one of 12 artists in Snap, and the organiser of the event. I mean, you didn't curate it in the sense of choosing work or anything.
No, and I think these days that rarely happens, to be honest. I think mostly you invite people to come in, and especially somewhere like this, because it's such a site-specific place. There's no gallery. I mean, this was never been used before, but this is the closest to being a gallery in the whole place. And so you can't tell people what to do, but I know most of the artists involved in it, and where they've wanted to, then we've had quite a lot of discussion about what's possible. And I've definitely encouraged people, like someone like Johnny, for example, who would normally show photographs in frames or something. I've definitely encouraged him to be braver about it and try it. Why not? It's a good place to try something out in the derelict building and stuff.
So that's Johnny Shan Kidd, whose photographs are pasted onto the brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally like postering.
Yeah.
Oh,
which you wouldn't normally do that, and when opportunities like that don't always come about. And similarly, with me being able to use the derelict space and stuff, I mean, it's not the kind of thing you can just do any old time in any old show. Quite a bold show, and sometimes you go to things like this and you think, actually, if it's a more provincial place, you better be a bit more careful about what you do. But to me it seems quite important to be, if you are a bit more brave about it, people just take it for granted. It's confident, and it's sort of easier to take on board. You haven't got to go into a little gallery and go, oh, whose is this? Yes. There's nothing sort of pompous about it. And I've seen like loads of people, Simon's Billboard, everyone who comes here, I mean today's a drab day, but on a sunny day, everyone is being photographed in front of it. It's become this sort of iconic thing. You know, people seem to be not in the slightest bit intimidated by it.
Jonathan, there's a huge range of music that can be heard here all year round. I think many people think that this festival and this place is devoted only to Benjamin Britten, but that's far from true. Can you give us a flavour?
Britten would never wanted his festival to be exclusively about his music, and obviously his music was a key part of early festivals, but he was incredibly open-minded about other music, particularly in terms of encouraging other composers, in fact. And so Aldeburgh's always, from the earliest days, been a really rich mixture of Britten's music, contemporary music. There was a lot of pioneering work done with early English music here, right from the early festivals, so early music has always been a key part of the Aldeburgh mix. And of course some of the core classics from the classical repertoire too, because the other aspect of Britten was that he was a fantastic pianist. So his piano playing was a key part of early festivals, along with his partner Peter Pears, the tenors, singing and leader recitals, which again didn't just encompass Britten's repertoire, but Schubert and all kinds of repertoire.
And what about plans for 2012 when the Olympics come to London? As part of the Cultural Olympiad, I believe you're planning a world orchestra.
Nowadays, a lot of leading talent comes from, say, the Far East, or recently we've heard about amazing musicians coming perhaps from South Africa, places that traditionally were perhaps unexpected sources of classical music talent. So the arrival of the Olympics, it felt like a really good moment to try and do something that we think is probably a world first, which is to create an orchestra of young professional musicians, but try and draw roughly equal numbers from all the continents of the world and make it a real world orchestra. So that's what we're going to do in July 2012.